Morning everyone. I just welcome you to this meeting of the Police and Crime Annual General Meeting. If we can go around and do a quick introduction for everybody, and then we'll get on with item 1, which is the appointment of the chair for the next year. So I'm Fiona Bernardo, I'm Policy and Partnerships Officer here at Wakefield Council.
I'm Councillor Taylor and I'm representing Leeds City Council.
Good morning everyone, I'm Councillor Oliver Edwards, also on Leeds City Council.
Good morning everybody, I'm Councillor Alison Monroe representing Kirklees Council and I'm subbing today for Councillor Anthony Smith.
Councillor Carter, Leeds City Council.
Councillor Geraldine Carter, Calderdale Council, no relation.
Councillor Beverly Addy, Kirklees Council, and I'm subbing today for Councillor Gwen Lowe.
Hi, Councillor John Johnson, I'm Wakefield Council. Councillor Maureen Cummings, and I'm Wakefield Council.
I'm Rebecca Westerman, I'm Research and Policy Assistant Wakefield Council.
Superintendent Sarah Fraser, West Yorkshire Police.
Robert Stewart, West Yorkshire.
Tracy Brabin, Mayor of West Yorkshire. Alison Lowe, Deputy Mayor of West Yorkshire. Wendy Stevens, Research and Performance Manager for the Policing and Crime team.
Good morning, I'm Jonathan Pickles. Rob's on leave today, so I normally sit up there in the cheap seats, but not cheap really. So I normally sit up there, so it's a pleasure to be sat with you today and be here with you this morning.
Councillor Anne Kingstone, Calderdale Council.
Morning, Trevor Lake, Independent Member.
Morning, Celia Hickson, Bradford Council. Good morning, Councillor Nusrat Mohammed, Bradford Council.
Good morning, Jo Sykes, Independent Member.
I'm Chris Hayden from Bradford Council.
Sharon Fraser from Wakefield Council, Legal Advisor to the panel. Good morning everybody. As it is the annual general meeting, the first item is the election of the chair for the year ahead. Could I take nominations for the position of chair, please?
I'd like to nominate Councillor Taylor.
Thank you. Any other nominations? The voting is by a show of hands, so I would ask those in favour of the nomination of Councillor Eileen Taylor for chair to please raise their hand. Thank you. And with the votes against and abstentions. Thank you. Councillor Taylor, you've been nominated as chair for the year ahead.
Thank you very much, my thank member, for re-electing me. I'm looking forward to be vibrant and serve you all in this committee. I'm looking forward to working with you all as it is. It's third year now. I normally never do a portfolio over 2 years, but it must be special for this plan. So thank you for having me. So first, the second on the agenda, we need to appoint a deputy chair. So is there any nomination for deputy chair? Councillor Ferguson?
I'd like to nominate Councillor Maureen Cummings.
Are there any other? So all those in favour of Councillor Cummings, please raise your hands. Thank you. Those against? Abstention? That's been carried. Thank you.
Thank you so much for putting your faith in me at such short notice.
Thank you. So we're down to item 2, police and crime membership. Panel membership. Papers have went round and we've got some new members. And the committee, as you can see, we have members subbing for others that just like to see the face. Subbing others. So you can see, I'd like to welcome 2 new members, Councillor Cummings, and welcome back to Councillor Kingston. Nice to have you back. And also Councillor Munro and, Councillor Carter. Caroline Carter is our 3rd new member. So we have 2 Carters that sit aside, but they're not wife and husband, so we'll split them up next time. One sit over there, we can't have 2 troublemakers there. Yeah. So welcome to our 3 new members, and thanks to Councillor Addy and Councillor Munro for serving our panel. Thank you. I take it on item 2 for already papers. I'm happy with what's there. Item 3, any apologies?
Chair, we've had apologies from
think we just need a decision on item 2 in terms of the membership.
We need a decision.
Membership. Sorry, apologies. Apologies for absence, yes. The apologies have been received from Councillors Gwenlow and Anthony Smith, and we have Councillor Alison Munro and Beverly Addy deputising.
Okay. Item 4, approve the minutes. That one.
We just want to approve
How do we call that? If members, so the old members, previous members. Right.
I'm happy to move the minutes, Chair.
No, sorry, we're going back somewhere that I never gone before. Sorry. Item 2, let's go back to item 2. Could we ask members to approve the 2 cooperative members by the raise of their hands? Yeah? Against? Okay? That's what we can. Is that it now? Yes. Yeah, go to item 4 now for the minutes, the last meeting.
Sorry, we just we spotted a slight amendment that we feel needs to be made. At 5.7, it talks about the CSE unit, which is being funded it's been part funded by the Home Office over many years. And in the minute it says that this has recently tapered, which was true. And then it said that the Mayor had recently written to the Home Office to ask for an increase. But that was successful, and I did say that at the panel meeting. Yes, so the letter that the Mayor wrote was successful. So if you just add which was successful at the end, that makes that minute complete.
Okay, thank you. Are there any other? Someone move the minutes, please. Item 5, left items, I'm sorry, I've got no item, Fiona. No, there's no late item. Item 6 is declaration of interest. Is any members have anything to declare before we get into the meeting? No. Item 7, panel arrangement rule, code of business. Members read the reports and happy with the report. This period. Item 8, panel budget. Yeah. So could we, back to item 7, could we have a show of hands that members are happy that nothing has been changed? Those against? Abstain? That's been carried. Item 8, panel budget outcome. This item has been referred back to. We'll come on the panel as soon as the Mayor and Deputy Mayor have something to report. And Fiona?
This is just, we're just waiting for the figures from the Home Office for the panel budget, so it's a panel matter now.
Item 9, performance. And it's handed over to the Deputy Tracy.
Good morning everybody, and welcome to the panel, the new members. It's a privilege to spend time with the Police and Crime panel because we, all of us, share the same ambition to have a safer, just, fair West Yorkshire, and the scrutiny that this panel provides really helps myself and Alison do a better job in holding the Chief Constable to account. So thank you for the work that you do, the time you take reading papers, developing good questions. So thank you, and I look forward to spending more time with all of the new members. So the performance monitoring, this is a new presentation of the performance measures from the Police and Crime Plan. And the paper is intended to show the data story with the Excel document containing the actual data. And I'm really pleased to see that the request for explanation under the data has been adopted. So thank you, Wendy. And I'm sure that everybody will find this really helpful, so that we don't have to necessarily try and remember our statistics GCSE, but we can have some guidance on actually what the data is telling us. And you'll see that it is in themes. The first theme is homicide. There's a recent slight increase. The second theme, confidence and satisfaction. And this is also current data for how West Yorkshire compares to national. There's also something to be noted here, that there's an increase in priority incidents, which we're going to discuss under investigations. The third theme, the category of stalking and harassment, and the breakdown now being given to local areas to better understand the changes in this crime grouping. Theme 4 is rape and sexual offences, and the overview by the Crime Survey of England and Wales shows an actual increase in offending across England and Wales in recent years. Investigation is theme 5, and positive outcomes for domestic offences are starting to show some signs of recovery, which links to the increase in priority incidents as all domestic calls are now put into this route. Also, can I highlight the criminal justice statistics? Really pleasing that West Yorkshire has really understood how doubly traumatising it is for victims to have their phone taken off them for many days, and in some areas weeks on end. And I'm really pleased that West Yorkshire Police decreased the number of mobiles held over 24 hours, whereas nationally it's increased, which is really hard for people who then worry about if they go to the police, they'll have their phone taken off them, and is that something that they want, and maybe will dissuade them from getting help. Theme 6 looks at equity, diversity and inclusion. You'll know as a panel this is really important to myself and our Deputy Mayor. And the use of TASER. This is interesting to note, this has fallen by 22.4% in the last 12 months, and over 90% of TASER use is non-contact. West Yorkshire Police have published a full document for their equality information, and the link can be found in the Excel document. And finally, theme 7 looks at recent Vision Zero data. We're still seeing a slight increase, sadly, in fatal collisions, but the decreasing trend for serious and slight injury collisions is welcome. I'm sure you have questions on the paper. I'll be using my team to help support the answers, so you get detailed answers, and nobody knows this data better than Wendy. So, so please, any questions?
Okay, thank you, Tracy. We've got quite a few questions in here, Tracy. The first one is Councillor Carter.
Thank you, Chair. Mine is linked to stop and search and arrest. Within the papers, if you look at the detailing for stop and search, the stop and search, there are far more numbers within the ethnic minority available than there is for the white demographic. But yet, if you look at the arrests underneath and the percentages, 76.6% for West Yorkshire is white, and the other demographic is 24.4%. So there seems to be quite a discrepancy between the stop and search within the white population and with the demographic for other of the population. And also that relates to the arrests as well, because there are far less arrests percentage-wise of the minority ethnic population than there is of the white population. Now, when you've got all these figures in front of you as they are, just blind statistics, I just wondered how you feel that it can be seen by the public at large, and if you're happy with how this is presented to us.
Thank you so much. And Alison has been leading the way, actually, on challenging disproportionality and trying to understand stop and search. And I wonder, Alison, if you want to talk to that.
Yeah, thank you very much. Obviously, this is something that I'm very passionate about, and I have to say that West Yorkshire Police, we've been pushing at an open door. They're really open to having a different conversation with the citizens of West Yorkshire about disproportionality and race disparities. I lead nationally for race disparities, equality and human rights at the Association of Police and Crime Commissioners, and I've just been invited onto the national NPCC, National Police Chiefs Council disproportionality board, so that I can add some of my expertise there, because it's been recognised that this is obviously something that West Yorkshire is doing well. So we have regular reports from West Yorkshire Police around stop and search, use of force, and over the 4-year period that Tracy and I have been here, the quality of the data has massively improved, and I think that's really helped West Yorkshire Police to understand what interventions are working, what interventions are not working. So at the last panel meeting, which obviously you would not be part of the panel at that point, we had a really detailed report on stop and search and some of that data. So we were able to show that actually the picture is not as clear cut as appears at first glance. So for example, in Bradford, disproportionality actually affects white British rather than someone from a BME population, because 20% of citizens from a minority ethnic background in Bradford were being stopped and searched, which was less than 40% they made up in the population of Bradford. But clearly in other parts of West Yorkshire, it's black minority ethnic citizens who are being disproportionately stopped. And we also looked in detail at how many young people were being stopped and searched, and we looked at intimate searches as well, and looked at disproportionality there. So there has been improvement in relation to the rate of disproportionality. So I think when we first came, it was something like 5 or 6%, and we're down to 3.2% now. I mean, some of that is about the updating of the census, so obviously more people in West Yorkshire from a black minority ethnic background, so that's obviously flattered the statistics. But there has been a lot of work with West Yorkshire Police, which is ongoing. We obviously have got the Police Race Action Plan, which West Yorkshire Police have signed up to. It's a national programme. There's a dedicated officer who oversees that, but led by the command team. So Lee Berry is the person who's overseeing that on behalf of the senior leadership team. And we're just about to get another report about the progress against the pack in June. It hasn't come yet, but we're waiting for it. So we're having lots of conversations with West Yorkshire Police about what operationally they're doing differently. So for example, West Yorkshire Police look at every stop and search of a black person in West Yorkshire. It's overseen by an inspector. That doesn't happen anywhere else in any other force. And obviously everyone's got body-worn video, and we know there's a very high percentage of officers wearing body-worn videos because it's mandated here. And so little by little, we're starting to see a turnaround of some of the data, but obviously I want that turnaround to be a faster pace, and those conversations with the public to improve, because if you have disproportionality that you can't explain, that means that trust and confidence in those communities doesn't exist. Satisfaction levels are less good for black minority ethnic communities. Intelligence from those communities is poorer, so you can't do your job. And then when incidents do happen in those areas where there's a high proportion of black minority ethnic communities, sometimes police don't feel safe going in to do their jobs. They have to go in, but it's not always as an effective interaction as it could be. So a lot of work happening, some improvement in the data, lots of good data coming from West Yorkshire Police, and they're regularly on an ongoing basis interrogating that data, looking at their practice. Lots of training of staff. I should have mentioned the 2-day cultural competence training course, which has come in as a result of the Police Race Action Plan, which me and our team have been on, and it's very, very good. So small steps, but they're going in the right direction.
If I may say, Chair, would it be useful to share that report?
Yes, please.
Which came to the panel?
Yeah. Yes, we can reshare it again.
Yeah, just for new members. So.
Well, it's just on the website. We just look at the last meeting. It's there.
Chair, can I just come back and say thank you for that, and the but is, this meeting is open to the public, these papers are available to the public. So without the explanation, the stark figures are not saying what you've just said. So maybe we need to look at a different mechanism of trying to report what we're trying to say. Yeah. So I'm trying to be helpful, not critical in this instance, because it doesn't really say what the picture is. So that's my point, that's where I'm going from.
Yeah, and obviously this is a new way of reporting, but we did have a previous paper with much more detail at the last panel, which you'll be able to look at. But we also have a quarterly community outcomes meeting, which is live streamed, which the public can watch if they want to watch. The papers are public, and that's where all that really detailed, rich data it's part of those reports that are available to the public. And then they see Tracy or Tracy and I talking to the police about those reports, challenging on some of the numbers, complimenting on some of the numbers, and having that shared conversation about how we can move forward together. So actually there is a place, it's not this place, but there is a place where those sometimes difficult conversations take place. It's publicly live streamed, the papers are available, and all the live stream videos are available on our website.
If I may add as well, Chair, that we are also, there is opportunity for the public to ask us directly on the things that they're concerned about. So whether that's message the Mayor, both Alison and myself regularly go on BBC Radio with Rima, and we don't know what the questions are, and the public can ask us anything. And also I have a series of Mayor's Question Time, where I have public events, large public events, across West Yorkshire. That's a few hours long, and people put in questions, and we often get questions about police and police outcomes and expectations that the public have of the police. So this is not the only forum for the public, for the public to have their say as well.
Okay, thank you, Tracy and Alison. Councillor, please.
That's on. It is good. It's a question about the very same thing, the stop and search data that you provided in this, and unfortunately, because I wasn't on the panel last year, I also haven't seen that report that you're talking about. To me, just looking at the raw data, it felt obvious that there is racial profiling in West Yorkshire Police Force, that our officers are guilty of that. That's what it looked like to me. I'm assured that if I saw that report, and that might weaken that impression, if I saw that report. I just wondered, what assurances have you received that that is not the case, or that that is being addressed?
Please. Thank you. Two things can be true at the same time. I'm not saying that some racial profiling is not taking place, because I believe that racial profiling is part of decision making, whether it's conscious or unconscious. In many cases it's unconscious, which is why the 2-day cultural competence training is so important to, I think, changing that culture within West Yorkshire Police, where historically it's been believed, the practice has been high crime areas tend to be those most deprived areas, tend to be where most BME people live. Therefore, it's legitimate to stop and search more BME people because they're more likely to be involved in crime. And actually, as Councillor Carter pointed out, the data does not evidence that that is the case. And so there is a problem nationally and here in West Yorkshire, as we've said many times. Are we tackling that root and branch? I think we are, through the training, through the PrAP programme, through the oversight that West Yorkshire Police has introduced through things like body-worn video, having the auditing of that body-worn video for every stop and search. There's IAG arrangements, independent advisory groups. There's an external historical racism advisory group. And then the data that's being provided, which we scrutinise and then hold to account, which is publicly accessible too. These are all part of the ingredients of success, but it's all going to take time because it's taken, if you think about, the historical difficulties that black and brown people have had with policing over many, many, many years, 50, 60, 70 plus years. I think it's impossible to change what has developed and embedded and become entrenched over that period to turn around in 3 or 4 years. So we're looking at a long-term culture change programme. Am I satisfied that the changes that are happening in West Yorkshire Police are the start of changing a culture? I am satisfied. Am I satisfied that we're where we need to be? Of course not. Because the evidence is the data, and the data is telling us that disproportionality still exists. There's still a gap between black and white satisfaction, and outcomes for black and brown people are not always the same, but that's not just about policing, that's the whole of the criminal justice system. Black people are overrepresented in the criminal justice system more largely, and so it's that culture change that we all have to sign up to and be committed to. And I do believe that the Chief Constable and the senior leadership team and many, many, many of West Yorkshire Police officers are committed to that culture change and are putting the work in.
So, Chair.
Please.
Apologies, can I just come in? There is not racial profiling in West Yorkshire Police. That's a very specific term and a very significant term that could be hugely damaging. There is disparity in many of the activities we undertake for exactly the reasons articulated. As we all know, disparity doesn't always mean it's discrimination. However, there will be some discrimination within there, conscious and unconscious, and racism. But I can tell you professionally, I believe the vast majority of this is demographic, social, economic, and a whole host of other things involved in it. We are working really hard. This is a good report because our disproportionality is far less than it has been. The outcomes from stop and search are far greater, so we're doing fewer stop searches, less on black and Asian people, and the outcome of the stop search, we find stuff far more than we've ever done before. So that's good. I think we could probably get into 20 or 30, 40 years' time and still be in the same position, in the same way that councils are, and hospitals, and other things, because it's societal and structural discrimination going on here. So stop and search is an iconic thing around racial issues for policing. I can tell you we're in the best place we've ever been about it, and we're working incredibly hard about it. It's getting better all the time. But some of it is, if you want us to keep young people safe from night crime, we will go to the areas where night crime occurs. If disproportionality occurs, that's not down to the officers being discriminatory, that's to do with the crime. If you want us to go for drugs, we'll go where those are. So we're alive to it, and I agree with Alison, and we're probably more unified than you might imagine on all of this. But it is not quite always as it's laid out. Just think of those frontline officers who are trying to keep us all safe, and are constantly being told that they're acting inappropriately. They're trying to keep our communities safe. I'll leave it there, Mayor.
Thank you. Councillor Kingston, microphone.
Sorry, I didn't realise it was still on. I just want to come back and thank you for the responses, and to just say the data that it's still alarming that you're twice as likely, more than twice as likely to be stopped and searched in West Yorkshire, given that data, if you are from the black or Asian ethnic minority. It's alarming.
I agree, and I think it's 5 times more likely to die in childbirth if you're a black woman.
Thank you. Councillor. Yes, sorry, is that what you want to follow up?
Yeah, just to follow up. Thank you for answering the question, and it was quite in-depth, and it kind of made sense as well. Can I ask the Mayor and Deputy Mayor, is this information being relayed to people out there and to 18-year-olds that are being stopped and searched for perfectly good reasons, as the Chief Constable has pointed out to us? But I think as an elected member, my priority is the people that put me here and what they say to me, and then to kind of balance it out. So having heard the argument here, I now have to go back and speak to particularly 18 to 20-year-olds that think they are being racially profiled, and obviously we've now stated they're not being racially profiled. But is this something that they're understanding, and what are we doing to make sure that they understand that, look, it's not personal to you, we're trying to keep you safe? Thank you, Chair.
If I may say, this is about trust and confidence in the police more widely, and this is why it's so important that we do our job properly, that we hold the police to account. But I would also if I may say, it's also a responsibility for councillors to understand what's going on in their communities, and then, as we saw in Hare Hills, for example, to be trusted by their community. So when they're relaying the information, that they are believed. I do think that social media has unfortunately also not helped, because young people sharing what would have been, back in our day, things that you didn't know about because they happened halfway around the world, and believing that that is our society as well. I'm very proud actually of the young people of West Yorkshire, and the fact that they are nominating themselves to be youth commissioners, to work with us, and particularly during COVID, didn't we see that, those young people in Bradford leading their community, sharing information, sharing the truth of what was happening. So it's all of our jobs to reassure young people and to give them the confidence to stand up for themselves, but also not to be led by others who actually want to divide communities and to set one community against the police. So, you know, it's a job for all of us. But Alison, anything you want to say?
Yeah, and just to add that obviously the Police Race Action Plan is a huge engagement piece of work. So I've been in Bradford with the Police Race Action Plan. I say team, it's one person, but obviously it's supported by other people from West Yorkshire Police, and you know, doing lots of work with the community who were invited. Obviously West Yorkshire Police has got the POLED scheme, which very much talks about crimes that young people might be exploited into, but also risks that they could themselves become involved in crime, and so Stop and Search is part of that. So there's a lot of work, but there's 2.4 million people in West Yorkshire, and West Yorkshire Police can't talk to all of them. We've got Community Alert, which they are rolling out to more and more households. Tens of thousands of people signed up now to Community Alert. So please do encourage more people to get signed up to Community Alert, because that tells citizens in their localities what's happening locally, why it's happening, and it's a two-way opportunity for the public to feed in as well. So we've got lots and lots of different opportunities to tell the public what's happening. Social media is one of them, but ultimately we're all part of that communication network.
If I may add as well that West Yorkshire Police have been doing a piece of work on social media, trying to reach young people. I wonder, John, if you wanted to just speak to that for a moment, about the work you're doing trying to reach young people.
There's a whole host of targeted work where we've won national awards for, where we're trying to get communication through modern electronic devices to people in those areas, explaining it, as the Deputy Mayor says.
Spotlight stuff,
there's a whole piece of work with youth, the advisory groups, youth panels. The Mayor and the Deputy Mayor and I have been to all sorts of schools and young black and Asian communities talking to them. And there is a lot of work going on around that, and surely that there is. If you need us to bring back a whole host of other reports on it. The danger and the difficulties with some of this is some of the feedback and the conversation isn't about stop search at all. It's about being stopped in a car or being spoken to by the police. And so we're then improving our recording methods all the time as well, about how we record all of those things as well. So it has become a little bit of an iconic thing for the right reasons, because of the misbehaviour of police officers in the past, most definitely. I think anybody who's been on the police authority, I think we've been talking about this for the best part of 30 to 40 years. So there's an incredible amount of work ongoing. It is in a better position than it's ever been before, but I accept it's not where we want to be as a society. But that's not all because of bad policing, it's just societal issues. Where there is bad policing, I can tell you now I'm at the front of the queue to deal with it on your behalf.
Okay, Councillor Carter, you just want to comment
I
on
want to
that?
comment on what Chief Constable.
Yeah, and after Councillor Carter, I'm going to just leave this one. Councillor Cummings, you are going to have a question next. But Councillor Carter.
Thank you. I'm reassured by what the Chief Constable said. When we cut through all the stuff we've got to say here, the people out there expect the police to target where the issues are without fear or favour, and do so irrespective of the ethnicity of the group, and it's probably mixed anyway, of indigenous, various different ethnic minorities. The key message surely is the police target without fear or favour. The comments the Chief Constable made are reassuring in that respect, and cut through some of the observations that have been made.
Thank you.
Yeah, and I would just like to say that actually black people have not got a problem with stop and search. There was a piece of research done about 2 years ago which actually said that black communities want stop and search to happen. They don't want knives in their community, they don't want guns in their community. The issue is the disproportionality, and that's what we're trying to work on. It's not about the police not doing their jobs. Everyone wants the police to do their jobs. But let's resolve the disproportionality, and we are.
Thank you both. And Councillor.
Yeah, I wanted to come back actually, first of all, on what's just been said. And whilst I appreciate that, you know, there's all these things happening, you've got the Mayor's question time, the message to the Mayor, youth commissioners and community alert, how are you getting those messages out there to the general public that this is happening? Because some of these initiatives I've never heard of. And I'm not saying you're not doing it, I'm just saying how are the messages getting out there? That was a supplementary question to what was asked previously.
Well, as you would imagine, it's the usual channels. It's emails to local councillors, it's social media campaigns. We do videos ourselves trying to get people to come to Mayor's Question Time. When we do Message the Mayor, we'll do a video in the morning or messaging in the morning. I'm going to be on Message the Mayor. Dial in any question you want to ask, no problem. But obviously, people have busy lives and lots of things are going on for people, and they might not necessarily see all the good things that we're doing. But that's why a good councillor is so much part of this story, because you can help us by, for example, with the Mayor's Community Safety Fund, councillors have been able to identify community groups in their ward that then would be eligible for that funding. But without you, people wouldn't necessarily know about it. So it's a process of cascading of information. But there will always be people that don't care about politics, don't read a paper, don't go on socials. They're just busy getting on with their lives. So it is a process of awareness. But I am also pleased that over the last 4 years since I've been Mayor, the awareness of the role and the office and the work that we do is on the rise. Of course, you know, I was the first Mayor that we had. So we've also been on a journey trying to alert people to all the good things that we're doing. Then it's not just relating to police and crime, it's also about transport, housing, creative industries, skills, trying to ensure that people know that we're a great resource. And you know, we can help them get on with their lives, you know, in a better way. But they don't necessarily know about us. But it is a job of work, and that's why I have a really hard-working communications team that help me with that.
I just think, sorry Tracy, us councillors, we need to share Alison's and Tracy activity on our Facebook page more, because your community will look at it when you probably won't look at Tracy's, but when we sharing it, and it's a broader picture, we're more connected to Tracy. It's teamwork to get it out in the community. Alison and Tracy is two bodies, and they can be everywhere in this structure. And if we all work as a team with the police, Alison and Tracy, we get more out there. Yeah, so could you ask your question?
Yeah. My question is on theme 5, violence against women and girls, as you would imagine it would be. I know from the figures that West Yorkshire is much, much higher than other authorities, that is larger. I suspect that could be one of a couple of reasons that people are now more confident in reporting and getting action around what's happened to them. But what are the police doing to try and get these numbers down, to build confidence, particularly for women? And again, domestic abuse, West Yorkshire and certainly in Wakefield, we have the highest rates of domestic abuse, albeit coming down. I think it's about 47% now, come down from 54. So we have been doing some work, but it's still high. And I just wonder, you know, what more can we do to encourage people to come forward, to get convictions, to actually stop the repeats, particularly around domestic abuse, and how can we get these violence against women and girls numbers down? What more can we do?
Thank you so much, Councillor. And the long-standing members of this panel will know that since I became Mayor, violence against women and girls has been one of our biggest priorities. It can't be right that 2 women a week are murdered by their partner or their ex, or that women are living in fear and can't flourish. So we have put a huge amount of resources, time and effort into trying to tackle this problem that has been with us for millennia. Now, are we satisfied? Of course we're not. But these numbers, whilst it could look like it's very depressing because numbers are going up, remember they are a percentage. So, and I'll come to the Chief Constable to talk to this potentially, that is a percentage of the crime. So is it that other crimes have gone down and that our outstanding recording means that we are able to capture all of the data, whereas in some forces their data is not as outstanding as ours. So it's always a challenge, because when trust and confidence rises in the police and women know that they will be heard and believed, they are potentially more likely to then reach out. But remember that only 1 in 6 of domestic violence or sexual assaults are reported. So this is just the tip of the iceberg, what we're even seeing. So this is the greatest tragedy of our society, is that women are being held back because of violence and it is predominantly men. So I hope that you have seen over the last 4 years, we have taken a very front-footed approach. We have the country's first women's safety unit, working with the Violence Reduction Partnership and ourselves. We have a stalking advocacy service. We've worked with Professor Monckton Smith, because we know that stalking is on the timeline to femicide. So if we can stop stalking, maybe we can stop murder. We are working on male behaviour change, because it's not just a woman's problem. Men are our allies and our friends, and they can help us. So the Just Don't campaign has been really impactful, and nearly 8 million people have watched that video. It's been shared on social media by high-profile celebrities. We commissioned research for safer parks, because too often as young girls grow up, their lives shrink to the bedroom and not the park like the boys. That work, that research has enabled us to have new designs for parks that are more welcoming to women and girls. We're also working and pushing the police's work, the POLED, which is going now in almost every school in West Yorkshire. It wasn't when I first became mayor. It's such a great resource, talking about healthy relationships, consent, sexting, those sorts of issues. But this is a really huge problem. But I am confident that our leadership, working in lockstep with the police, who are friends in this challenge, we are, I would suggest, one of the best regions in the country when it comes to our openness to innovation in this space and our determination to use our resources as best we can. But I agree with you that my vision is to make West Yorkshire the safest place to be a woman or a girl. And every time I come to panel, every time I read the statistics, I could weep, because this is not where we want to be. But are we doing everything in our power? And I would suggest so. But Alison, is there anything you want to add?
Yeah, I mean, how long have we got? So, obviously, you asked about what the police are doing, and they're doing a lot. So in terms of org offences, they've now set up a gold group to oversee domestic abuse and RASO cases, which is a separate arrangement overseen by the Mayor's Women's Safety Unit, which is part of the Violence Reduction Unit, because obviously we wanted to make sure that we gave the right level of resources and attention to violence against women and girls, so that's why it's part of the VRP. This gold group now is overseeing all domestic abuse cases to ensure that the right investigations are taking place. Investigations and risk assessments are the 2 areas a focus that we asked West Yorkshire Police and the Women's Safety Unit to look into, because that's what victims were telling us. They didn't feel West Yorkshire Police were as good at as they could be, and that's really accelerated progress, I think, in those 2 areas. So some examples, the HMIC FRS report said that investigations were not always as well managed as they could, and they weren't being overseen by line managers as effectively as they could. The Gold Group now oversees line management, supervision of investigations. They did a recent file audit, and when the command team, the Gold Group, went in to have a look at whether or not those investigations were being overseen, 97.7% of all files had been overseen by a line manager. 91.4% were of the highest quality. That's a massive move in the right direction. If you look at satisfaction is highest amongst domestic abuse victims than any other crime type. And if you look at satisfaction with outcomes for all crime types, it's 58.5%, I think it is. But for domestic abuse cases, it's something like 88%. So victims of domestic abuse are absolutely feeling the difference of the work that West Yorkshire Police are doing. There's now a lot of work on attendance at domestic abuse cases, so there's this thing called RAPID, which we talked about last time. I can't remember what the RAPID stands for, but it's obviously stands for something that the Chief Constable will be able to tell you. But they have to be out in an hour to visit all domestic abuse victims. Obviously, they do negotiate that, because some people might be going to bed, or they might be going to work, or whatever, but that's the norm. So all victims are seen really, really quickly now, and that's part of the reason why I think satisfaction is higher. And West Yorkshire Police are also looking at the way that they undertake risk assessment. So we've got the DASH, which is a national tool, will become the DARA. For the last 6 years, they've been working on this thing called the DART, which is the DA analytical tool. I was at a homicide, domestic homicide summit this week with West Yorkshire Police and partners, where they introduced the DART, which is now ready to be piloted in an area. I think it's going to be Bradford, I can't remember. The DART, after 6 years of work, it's all been worked alongside with Cambridge Analytic. I can't remember the name of it, but it's an academic institution. They have put in 404,000 domestic abuse cases, whole cases where this was what we found out about the perpetrator, this is the information we're putting through all the different risk assessments that we did, and then these were the outcomes. So put all that in, so it uses some AI to come to a conclusion, and it's proven that so far through the testing period, it looks like it's 89% accurate in identifying risk of harm from perpetrators, compared to the DASH, which is 26% accurate. So it's a massive game changer if it works. So they're deploying that locally in Bradford, and they're going to test whether or not what it's saying on paper is actually going to be the reality. And wow, how different will that be for victims if we can get that right? Because all the resources then are going to be applied in the right places at the right time for the right victims, and obviously for the right perpetrators. So a huge amount of work, not just in terms of the day-to-day, the operational response, but also looking at how can we get better over a longer period of time, how can we use tech, AI, all those different resources that are emerging. It really speaks to the priority that West Yorkshire Police have in this space. There's so many things to tell you about what's happening with RASO, and they're using the principles of Oxitary, for example, across all of org offences now, really embedding that training. Is second to none. We've got the 2-day domestic abuse training that's being accredited by Safe Lives and Women's Aid nationally, but also there's a full day's training for all new recruits as part of the induction process. It's massive. So domestic abuse is the priority of West Yorkshire Police, and that is completely evidenced by the work that they're doing, the data that we've seen. I speak to all the senior leadership teams, I go through various neighbourhood policing teams, they're all telling me the same thing. That and summer surge, but we'll talk about that later.
Yeah. Can I just come back very briefly on what I was going to say? Yeah, and I know the work that happens, obviously, I know the work that's happening, but what can we do, or what can you do when it is that we get partner perpetrators of domestic abuse subject to early release? However, perpetrators who are strangers of sexual assault are not subject to early release, and I think that's something that needs to be addressed.
Yeah.
Okay. Is a supplementary question added to this?
It's on the same topic, yes, a supplementary line.
It's not supplementary. You've got a question to ask, do you ask a supplementary?
It's the same thing.
It's the same question. So Edwards asks a quick supplementary question, then it comes straight on to you then. Because you wanted to ask a question in this.
Yeah, mine's related to that too.
Yeah, mine is too.
Yeah, and...
Okay, go ahead.
Thank you, Chair. This may have some overlap now because obviously you gave such a full answer. There's a lot in there. I'm really welcoming the returning of the phones. It's so important to people to be able to keep in touch with their support network, and people only store their contacts in the phone, so that's fantastic. And the rape outcomes improving, amazing. What I was interested to know, and you've made it a priority, it's here listed as a priority, that the outcomes for other sexual offences, there's been a decrease. And of course those sort of offences could be the ones that lead to repeat offending and escalation of offence, maybe to the point of rape, not to say that one's worse than another, but have you got specifics that you'll be bringing in to tackle that?
I think we've discussed on a number of occasions at the panel how the small offence can then escalate or can be an indicator of someone who's going to commit a greater offence. And that's why we've taken and we've been speaking to West Yorkshire Police about flashing, for example, that when we were growing up we used to go, oh, it's just some weirdo in the park, but it's now taken incredibly seriously. I wonder if you'd like to speak to that about sort of incremental incidences.
Forgive me for the technical term, but non-contact sexual offences are now dealt with totally differently in the last few years. So we're looking at everything holistically from the top to the bottom of every type of sexual offence involving violence against women and girls, but also involving violence against boys as well, and looking at all of those precursors. So the scrutiny, the oversight is wholly different to what it has been in the past. I'll probably leave it as that just for brevity.
Thank you. Is that interesting? That's a quick supplementary question.
Thank you. And I just wanted to follow up on some of the issues that you're raising around thinking about public spaces. So we have a specific example in my ward where there is a relatively new housing estate, Hyroids in Menston, and there's an area in order to access the nearest train station. There's an area, a road, where there is no lighting on it, and this is something that was missed in the planning process, and there's all sorts of wrangling around that. But my question is around how confident you are in terms of the planning process, whether in new estates across West Yorkshire, not specifically in my ward, but across West Yorkshire, how confident are you that these issues around lighting in particular and safety in public spaces are being picked up at the planning stage? And I recognise that's an issue for local councils as well, but I'd be interested to hear your thoughts.
Thank you for that, and you're absolutely right that planning is for local authorities, but we will obviously listen to the community about safety, and if it's a safety issue then it can be raised with your community safety partners, but I would suggest as a councillor you will be making those submissions to the council to try and get lighting brought in, but it might be something that you can send us more information, but in the first instance it does feel like it's a local authority planning issue.
So, Madam Mayor, thank you for telling us about all the initiatives that you've been setting up in order to tackle fraud. However, I'm just wondering why we're not seeing more positive figures if you've been, as a result of all the work that you have been doing. Just wondered if you could perhaps give us an insight into what may not be working, or if you could give us any information, that would be really helpful. Thank you.
So I have said all along that anything that isn't working has to go. So we're not going to waste time and money on things that are having no impact whatsoever. But my question back to you would be, what would these figures look like if we weren't doing what we've been doing? So we are we are really focused on also not just the figures, but the outcomes. So are more women getting justice? We are seeing the tide turning on that. So more women, perpetrators are going behind bars and they're getting justice. Are women feeling more confident to come and tell the police? Yes, but as I said, 1 in 6 report. Another 5 women out there and are sat at home in misery and struggling and not reporting. What we have to do is we have to accept there may actually be an uptick in numbers because people are coming forward to report. But it is very difficult to know what would happen if we hadn't intervened. And that's why the stalking, for example, tackling stalking, we will never know how many women we stopped. We saved or enabled them to flee the stalker or whatever. It's very hard to quantify. But my challenge is our duty and our job is to do absolutely everything, but also to have really clear-eyed oversight of what is working, what isn't working. Now, we are also pressing government for more resources because that's also going to help us. But with the resources we've got, I think also being open to innovation is going to help us get better outcomes as well. As you've heard, this new pilot in Bradford could be an absolute game changer for us about risk. Using smart water, for example, where we got our first ever conviction using smart water as evidence. The innovation that we're trying everything we can, but we will pilot stuff. If it doesn't work, we won't be doing it. But I wake up every morning and think, what more can I be doing to make sure that we can keep women and girls safe in West Yorkshire?
Yeah. So first of all, I would say you can't be saying to victims of serious sexual offences, have more confidence, please report, and then expect the numbers to drop. Because obviously the numbers will increase as people get more confident. We have asked West Yorkshire Police for why they think rape in particular and serious sexual offending might be increases here in West Yorkshire. And we think that confidence is definitely contributing on the one hand. We think there probably is more crime on the other, but also West Yorkshire police officers are much better identifying with victims when multiple offences have taken place, and because we're outstanding at recording, we're recording every offence. So because we're building that rapport with victims, because of the training, the culture change, all the things I've talked about, when a victim's saying, I was raped by, because most of our rapes are domestic related, I was raped by my partner, there might be several events that have happened over a period of time, and the officers are much better at helping the victim disclose those, identify that that was a crime, and then those are getting recording. So it's a complex picture. And of course, in terms of justice, victims are getting a better outcome here in West Yorkshire. So we're currently first for cases going to CPS and being agreed at first submission, first in the country. That's not been the case for a long time, but we have been steadily improving over a long period, and now we're number one in the country. I think just under 84% of cases are accepted at first triage. I was in a meeting yesterday, and we've got 20% in the last quarter, 20% of adult rape cases receiving a guilty plea in West Yorkshire. The national average is 13%. We've got the average days from the police referring a case to CPS to charge being authorised. The average is 84 days. Nationally, it's 136 days. So there's loads of stuff happening outside of just policing that you might think of. All the work in the background in terms of the work West Yorkshire Police are doing to get charges before CPS, the work they're doing with victims. So we've got a really good retention rate of victims in the pre-charge period. We're one of the best in the country. Where we have not been as good is post-charge. That's when we've lost more victims than our national partners. Actually, the rate of loss is massively reduced. And so we want to keep that really good progress going, and we want to understand why that's happening. And we hope it's happening because of the support, the victim support services that Tracy funds, the ISFAs, etc. But it's also the great work of West Yorkshire Police and the culture change that's happening with police officers in their interventions, interactions with victims.
Thank you.
Sorry, Chair, apologise for extending it. The single biggest thing that would give more justice to victims of domestic abuse is if the police could charge the perpetrators when they arrest them. So for the last 5 years, we've had the ability to charge them taken away from us. That immediately means delay in the system. They're bailed, the file goes, a month or two goes by, and guess what happens? Attrition occurs. It's absolutely ridiculous they're in a position in our society that we can't trust the police to just get on and charge those people who they're charging. They then get more early guilty pleas, the criminal justice system's faster, and most importantly, we look after victims. 5, 6, 7 years ago, when that was taken away, we saw a decline in justice for victims of domestic abuse. I don't blame the local CPS, it's a national issue. I hear all the pressures, it's not victim-based. We need to have offenders charged quickly whilst they're in custody. I can tell you now, the victim satisfaction, victim support and the detections in terms of convictions would shoot right up. I don't blame the CPS, it's not their issue locally, it's a national funding issue. But they could just release that ability. And we're working hard, and the Deputy Mayor's worked really hard and close to it to get people charged when they're arrested. So what that means is we can charge people. Last night, they could almost admit it. We're not allowed lawfully to charge them. They've got to be let out. It's not good.
Thank you.
Trevor, do you want to ask a question? No? Councillor Edwards?
Thank you. I'd like to pick up on theme 2 around competence and satisfaction. So thinking about this, particularly from a resident's point of view. So 2 questions. So the first one, when we think about 101 and live chat as councillors, we encourage our residents to report, and particularly when it comes to maybe some of the things that might be seen as lower level issues or offences, but which nevertheless really impact on people's lives. One of the issues we've had though is that when people have phoned, particularly 101, quite often they've been told that maybe the information, that there's nothing the police can do about it, and that the information can't be submitted. And so there's from a resident's point of view, there's an inconsistency in terms of messaging. So my question is about what's being done around training, in particular in relation to 101 call handlers and the consistency of messaging. So that's when it comes to reporting. Second question in relation to after incidents have happened and the police are investigating. Again, feedback from residents is that when they've reported something, when it's being investigated, residents are quite often having issues in terms of getting follow-up, getting feedback, and this is particularly an issue in a social media age, which you referred to, Mayor. So the question is, what can be done, what in your view can be done to improve communication and feedback, both with the victims once it's been reported, and also in terms of the wider community of which the victims are part.
So we haven't done a paper today on the contact centre performance. So I'm going to ask Gwen Wendy to refer back to the data that she's produced previously, because she's got a laptop.
So 101 data, what we're finding, if you look at the calls for service and the trends in the contact types, what we were finding was that there was an increase, this is over a year ago, in 999 calls, and when the police dug into it, what they found was that people were on 101 and were getting fed up of waiting too long, and then calling 999. So there was a big work done with the contact centre. Also now they put on at the start of the 101, there is a recorded message to say to people, if you're calling about this, please go here. If you're calling about this, to make sure they're in the right place, because a lot of people were hanging on and then finding that wasn't where they were supposed to be. They needed to report like noise nuisance to the council, for example.
So that was put in, and then a lot of work was done in the contact centre. And so we went from over 11 minutes wait average on the 101 system to more recently we've been within the 2-3 minute wait, which is really good. It does see some seasonal fluctuation because of the numbers going up and down, which you would expect, but we keep a constant eye on that to look at it going up. And then we have a quarterly performance scrutiny meeting with the Chief Constable. When we bring up this sort of data, we ask those questions. If we're seeing it going up, we're asking those questions. But more recently, it has been coming down. And if you look on the trends, you'll see that there's more people now going online. So this is something we're looking at now to make sure that online experience is better for people, and that's what we've been working with. Numbers of 101 are coming down, which is good, because people are finding the right way to contact West Yorkshire Police. So that's the 101 data. And then on your second point about police coming back to the public, obviously that's been an issue for many years, not just here in West Yorkshire, but nationally, because as resources have been cut, it's been harder and harder. And I think at one point there was an agreement that the public would be kept informed. I think it was about 60 days, but now it's down to 28 days. We've tried to tell people what's happening every 28 days. And, you know, there's all sorts of systems to monitor that, but ultimately we haven't got enough police officers to be able to report back to every single victim in a way that is timely for them, because they'd be doing nothing else and wouldn't be fighting crime and bringing suspects to justice. So it is a very big balance to be struck. And when you look at the confidence data, it is always about contact that affects the confidence. When you look at things like was I treated with respect, that's always really high. So yeah, it was ever thus, and West Yorkshire Police look for ever more innovative ways to try to address that.
One of the innovations online is Track My Crime. So you can, if you've got a crime number, you can tell victims they can go online, put it in, and it goes straight to the officer in the case that if you've got something else you want to say or whatever, it goes straight through. So this is one of the innovations online, which is why we're seeing the numbers rising of people contacting online.
Okay, thank you. Track their crime.
Yes, thank you, Chair. So, Madam Mayor, in relation to theme 1 and serious violence and knife crime, there's been a focus on reducing knife crime aimed at young people, which is excellent. But given the data for older people in West Yorkshire in knife-related homicide for the 30+ age groups, what measures are being taken to tackle this issue? Please.
Yes, as you know, serious violence is a priority. These numbers meant that we are putting serious violence at the top of our priority list. When it comes to ages, it has been young people that we've had quite a sort of laser focus on. But when it comes to people who are over, is it over 35?
Yeah.
It's over 35. How would you explain the data?
Yeah, because we've got some very current data that we're not allowed to tell you in the public because it's not yet been agreed by the authors. So Wendy's going to capture it in a way that won't get us into trouble.
Yeah, thank you.
So
you've got the hospital pass there.
Yeah. So you remember the Violence Reduction Partnership. We've talked about this in panels before. The Violence Reduction Partnerships came in because of the increase that they were seeing in young people and knife crime. This was mostly seen in the Met and was moving towards West Midlands that we saw. So the Violence Reduction Partnerships were brought in to look at knife crime, serious violence, to stop this trend. In West Yorkshire, though, what we saw was that the homicides were still the older group. We're starting to see a little bit of a move, but we have a higher percentage in West Yorkshire of domestic homicides. So this is why West Yorkshire Police have really put a focus on domestic homicides
They've had Dr. Jane Monckton-Smith come in, talk about the reasons for domestic homicides, what to look for, the flags, that sort of thing. So there's been a real focus. So, but we also do need to still consider this movement of knife crime against young people. So at the minute we're taking a dual track. The police are looking at domestic homicides and that sort of thing, but also we're then looking towards a serious violence strategy to stop this trend of it coming up the country as it has been.
Well done. Yeah, very good. Well done.
Councillor Christine.
Yes, thank you, Chair. My question is on confidence and satisfaction. The trend is across the country to go down. But are you thinking of putting anything in there to highlight this to try and get the public to have more confidence? Are you putting any strategies in place? And in addition to that, can you please tell us what your timetable is for the new survey and when the panel might likely see the results? Thank you.
Thank you. And your views survey, when's that Wendy?
Yeah, it's starting to come out. So the first interviews will be in July. So it'll be a rolling 12 months data that we need to get that level. But you'll start to see the first data come through by autumn of this year.
Thanks. And as you can see on the data that are the police doing a good job is 51%. And of course we've got to get the other 49% to believe that the police are doing a good job. All our role is to ensure that the public feel that trust and confidence. Now that is obviously outcomes. It's what we've been speaking about if you have been a victim of crime, that you are heard and that you get all the data that you need to understand the process of that investigation. But it's also to see that the police reflects the community. That's why we're really focused on making sure that the community, that the police looks like the community it serves. So that's why diversity and inclusion is a priority for us. But we have a job to do, of course we do. What is very helpful is Your Views survey to understand what the wider public think. However, I've been challenging the team to say it can't just be the usual suspects that fill in this survey. We have to do all we can to get the voices across West Yorkshire. That's why I'm really pleased with our consultation team that we have spoken, particularly on the Safety of Women and Girls plan or our police and crime plan. Those communities that feel that no one ever wants to hear what they have to say, so whether that is Gypsy Roma travellers, sex workers, people who are the furthest away from power, to make sure, using the contacts from my inclusivity champion as well, Fatima Khan Shah, working collectively to try and say to the public, we want to know what you think. What do you need to get more trust and confidence in the police? It's a long haul, of course it is, because people are very vulnerable. When they need the police, they're very vulnerable, so they want to make sure that they get a good service. But I'm not complacent, and we will continue to hold the police to account so that we get that higher satisfaction.
Yeah, and can I just point you to the confidence measures in the papers where it says agreement that the police can be relied upon when needed. Our most similar group percentage is 51.5%. West Yorkshire is at 55.3%, so that is statistically relevant. And I think it's important to note that, a majority, it might not be the biggest majority, but it's a majority of West Yorkshire people feel that in times of need they can phone West Yorkshire Police and they'll be there. So I think it's important to get that right.
Can I just come back? Do you not think a lot of this is perception? Do you not think that it's not the victims of crime that necessarily are answering these questions and saying they've not the confidence? It's people who are not victims of crime in areas where they see things and where they think that policing should be occurring and is not occurring. So for me, I think it's about the perception of the public that are not actually involved in either reporting or being a victim of crime. And I think that is where I might be wrong, but I think that is where some of this perception is falling down. And maybe that's an area that we can sort of concentrate on in some way, shape or form, whether it's by posters or whatever. I know it's old-fashioned to put posters up, but nevertheless, people can be inclined to read things if you put them in the wrong place, in doctor's surgeries and places like that, where you can advertise the fact that, and it then boosts the confidence of that perception.
Yeah, and I think we'd all agree, Councillor Catt, which is why the police have developed the community concern newsletter that comes to your phone or can come via email. And as I say, I was at an event last week, I think 60,000 people have signed up for that number. But obviously there's 2.4 million people here. So the police have got a mechanism to put in people's inboxes every week, this is what we're doing in your local area. And so please tell everybody about it, get them to sign up. There's a QR code, you can go on the website, you can sign up, you can get that information that shows that West Yorkshire Police are in your area, are doing lots of work. And now that we've got 100 more neighbourhood police officers in our towns and our local districts, I've been out and I've seen lots of the activity that's happening. I think the public will see more activity happening over the summer in particular, and their confidence will start to improve as a result.
And if I just say, it's also nationally driven. The Home Secretary has got her neighbourhood policing targets, and I would say more widely that if your community feels run down and your swimming pool is closed, you feel like everything is broken. So you also then have no trust in authority. And so we are doing all we can to ensure that communities get the funds after over a decade of underfunding and councils having their funds absolutely stripped to the bone, that we're trying to support councils and councillors to put back into those communities. That's why the Mayor's Community Safety Fund is important. That's why you will have heard in the spending review that there's now community funds that communities can put back what has been taken from their communities. And we all want a thriving high street. We all want to see flourishing high streets and not boarded up shops and criminality happening. So I think it's part of a wider dissatisfaction that I hope, with a new government and with the things that we are doing, that we can turn the tide and make people's lives happier and more pleasant.
Councillor Ferguson, I will ask the question. Yes, I'm going to allow Councillor Ferguson to ask the question, and I'm going to stop it. Sorry.
Thank you.
Go ahead.
Thank you. How's the spending review going to affect police in West Yorkshire? Are we going to really get more police, or are we just moving the police up and down?
Yeah, well, you'll have seen that there's been interventions by the Chief Constables across the country. Now, obviously, it was really important for us that we were championing support for the police, and I think it's a real terms increase, so that's very welcome. It's hopefully reflects government's commitment to raise those standards and to harness technology, which is what we've been hearing about, and our innovations, and increase efficiency and improve that accountability across the police force. And also, as we've heard, the challenge in the criminal justice system, it was really welcome to hear that investment in the criminal justice system, with the plans to expand prison probation and that court capacity, and the ambition is to get to absolute record levels. That's going to have a positive impact on policing, helping us reduce that cycle of reoffending that is so disappointing, and also giving victims the justice that they deserve. However, we know that there are going to be budgetary pressures, and I will always campaign for West Yorkshire to get the funding it needs to deliver for the communities. And if you're going to deliver safer streets, you have to support the police in order to do that. I'd also say that one of the welcome announcements, because myself and this panel have always been concerned about the welfare of children and people, the announcement of funding to deliver children's social care reform and expanding children's homes and foster placements is really great, because we know that children in care are probably some of the most vulnerable citizens, aren't they? So whilst a mixed bag, I think it's overall the real terms increase is to be welcomed.
Thank you. I didn't say I was going to stop it, but it's a very important topic for the public to hear what brilliant work you're doing. So I'm going to allow Councillor Ali Smart Justin and Councillor Aiden to follow up.
Thank you, Chair. One very practical part of this is the community concern, Alison, could that be made in a printable format when it goes out? Because I'm not suggesting you send out printed, but we've just done some really groundbreaking work in Kirklees with the ICB about ageing communities and what ageing society, what people want, and they want printed formats on their community centre they can pick up and read. So if the community centre asks for it, they can get it printed out there, stick it on the notice board, and I just want to
talk to West Yorkshire, please. It's not our...
Oh, right, yes, but printable format,
And
not to be sent out printed.
We can't do one for every person, because obviously the cost will be great.
No, but if you send it out in a printable format, a community centre, an organisation, print it off and leave it lying around like a newspaper on a coffee table, which really is important to older people. And I just want to echo that. It's a society thing to come back around. We've got to make society where people have healthy, happy, supported and fulfilling lives. To support the police, then they'd have a smaller job to do.
Indeed.
Thank you, Chair. Earlier I heard about the extra resources that have been put into the non-contact sexual crimes and looking at what could be precursor crimes to more serious actions. I just wanted to know your views on other crimes that are precursor crimes, such as animal cruelty, which is often a precursor to violence against women and girls.
Yeah, that's something I hadn't thought about, but
Yeah, I didn't say extra resources. I said we're actually putting more focus onto those, so we put them into our intelligence systems as part of our analytical response. And yeah, it's been a long-standing issue through domestic abuse, few sexual offences around abuse and neglect and damage to animals can be, precursor to some of those offences, as can arson and one or two others. So yeah, it features into the analytical processes around that. So all I can reassure you is that there's a day-to-day operational focus on the response to an investigation of those crimes, better than we've done before, and it's alarming to see the number of them. But also there's then an analytical back office kind of insight into them, to looking at patterns, precursors, and it also features in our risk assessment processes around sexual offences and domestic abuse to try and get them through. So yeah, it's that.
Okay, thank you. Thank you all for your contribution on item 9. That was very good debate. Thank you. We'll move on to item 10, which is public acquisitions. We've got our report. We can see, you want to take over, Chair? We can see where the mayor have to you.
Thank you so much. And this is just my response to current issues. We've started the formal...
No, you're on 11, you're number 10. So this is your public, what your public on the website.
Apologies.
I know you're eager to tell us what you want to do, just try it.
So I'm nothing to say to that.
Item 10.
Yeah. I've nothing to say to that, Chair. I assume it's taken as read.
So this is...
Yeah, just one follow-up question on that. See, given the new contract on Your View survey, is that the same people that did it before?
No, it was a new commission. It went through the full commissioning process. We did work with quite a few companies, and it's been awarded to a company that actually the combined authority know. Previously, Your Views was a postal survey, so we actually administered it in-house and then used a company to post out the survey, whereas this is actually going to be a telephone survey with some group work, that sort of thing, to supplement it where it's needed. So this is a brand new commission that's happened, so it's gone through the full commissioning process, and we're just at the point now of getting it ready to go.
Yeah, and the specification was co-produced with the 5 community safety partnerships.
Yeah.
Obviously the local authorities are really keen
to get this work out, and they're using some of the money that the Mayor gives them through the community safety funds that she allocates each year. So actually they're using their money to do, that the Mayor gives them to fund this work.
But that's also to the point of trying to reach those communities that we wouldn't normally reach with the previous survey.
So that's dynamic purchasing systems research. That's the Crown Services separate research division, is it?
I couldn't answer that question because it's a very detailed one, but we can take it away and find out.
I'll let you know.
Yeah, thanks. So when I tried to just have a quick look at it to see who was doing it, I got a bit lost in the
Right, yeah.
dynamic purchasing system is the Crown's system of purchasing.
Yeah.
Yes,
But I didn't know
that's
if they had a
right.
separate research department they were using, or whether we'd gone through that to find a company.
We went through that to find the company, but I'll give you some information outside because it's, yeah.
And now that's been awarded,
Yes.
have you got a date when it might happen and when we might get feedback on
Yes,
that?
so Trace has already responded. So let's say it again. When I think it was autumn. So they're doing all the testing.
Yeah.
Starting the work in July, and we're hoping to get the first. It's 12-month rolling programme. Hoping to get
the first quarterly data should be in October. That's what we're expecting. But it won't be statistically significant until we get 12 months of data. But we will start getting the data through on a quarterly basis and sharing it with all the community safety partnerships.
Thank you.
Okay, so that was item 10. Members, please do keep an eye on the Mayor website, just keep it updated. You don't have to wait to come to the meeting. So Tracy, we're on item 11 now, where you can share your benefits.
Super, thank you so much, Chair. So as I was saying, we started the serious violence consultation, and for anyone who was at the Pudsey Carnival, it was a really successful event. And over the next few months, the team are going to attend lots of other events to get that consultation on the serious violence strategy out there. And obviously, as we always do, that co-production roundtable events. Also, we've got the summer surge in West Yorkshire, and we're currently working with the Home Office, West Yorkshire Police and other partners to understand and develop the ask from the government and to deliver this piece of work. And this will feature in the Safer Places and Thriving Communities paper at the next panel. And I don't know if there are anything you'd like to say about the summer surge.
Yeah,
just a bit more detail.
Yeah, so obviously I meet all the senior leadership teams, and I've just done a round in the last couple of weeks, and I've been to most of the districts with neighbourhood policing teams. Lots and lots of excitement about the additional resources that have been put into neighbourhood policing teams. So for example, 16 new officers in Kirklees, and they will be supporting this summer surge, and it's a focus on town centres, a focus on retail crime and social behaviour. Action plans have been developed by the 5 districts. We've done our oversight plan, how we're going to be reporting back to the Home Office. We sent those plans off last week, and I got an email yesterday saying that our plans have passed muster, and I think there's some money coming as part of the summer surge that's supporting some of that work. So we've been told to send our invoice in, so that's what we hopefully did yesterday to get that money in. And so the summer surge will see huge visibility of policing in the town centres over the summer. There's going to be an evaluation of that, so we'll be able to see whether or not it's had an impact in terms of reduction in crime or positive outcomes, those sorts of things. And if it goes well, I understand there's going to be a winter surge. So, yeah, but it's all good for the public to see high visibility of police and the things that have been niggling away, really being addressed on a large scale.
Also, just to share with the panel that I held a really successful meeting at the Combined Authority with 3 rape crises organisations and survivors of sexual violence. It was really well attended, had a number of members of Parliament there as well, and lots of relationships were being built up, and members of Parliament and councillors could feed back to what they were hearing as well on the streets. And this is just the beginning of that deeper relationship with victims and survivors. It really good opportunity to bring forward government's agenda, and there was cross-party as well, which was really welcome to see. Also, I'm very proud that the Deputy Mayor has been invited to sit on the National NPCC Disproportionality Board, as you heard earlier, for recognition of her work in West Yorkshire and also in the APCC. And also, we've been invited to speak about VOG funding, tackling violence against women and girls, at the Select Committee in Parliament, at the Home Affairs Select Committee on the 17th of June. And thank you, Alison, for agreeing to represent West Yorkshire at the Select Committee. So we will, Chair, be able to share that if that's of interest to the panel, because it will also cover some of the questions that you have about what works, where the money's going, and our expected outcomes as well. So thank you, Chair. That's just a short roundup of what we've been up to.
Thank you, Mr. Professor. It's been a wonderful councillor. And Carter, Stu Carter,
Thank you, Mayor. We've heard a lot just now and indeed today about lots of priority and being really focused. We had the funding settlement, and we've heard the Deputy Mayor indicate more funding. But in point of fact, the Senior Officers Association has said that it's clear that this is an incredibly challenging outcome for policing. In real terms, today's increase in funding will cover little more than annual inflationary pay increases for officers and staff. The amount falls well short of what is required to fund the government's ambitions and maintain our existing workforce, which means incurring cuts at us. Went on then to the Association of Police and Crime Commissioners, which I guess you're part of.
I am.
So would you agree with the statement from them then that the funding announced is not enough to deliver the government's Safer Streets mission, and how does that square with what you both told us today?
Well, Alison, as you're a member of the APCC,
as I said earlier, two things can be true at the same time. So in the short term,
I'm going back to your world, but not in mine.
So in the short term, the £8.5 million that government gave us in January, we actually signed for it in April, but they told us about it in January, will fund an additional 100 police officers on the front line in neighbourhood policing teams who are already there because they've been moved from, these are experienced officers who are now being backfilled through a recruitment process, and we're getting 45 more specials. So that is real growth, and that is happening. That £8.5 million is separate to the CSR. So that benefit will come to West Yorkshire this year, and we're also going to have additional funding for the summer surge. So everything we said about neighbourhood policing funding is true, and the benefits that that will bring. And when I visited neighbourhood policing teams and the senior leadership teams, they're really positive about the difference that that's already making. So, for example, Calderdale, I was told about the work that they're doing to address antisocial behaviour, cuckooing of vulnerable people, 17 house closures, 2 businesses have been closed, and this is proactive policing that has happened over the last 3 months as a result of the increase in the police officers. It's absolutely the case that West Yorkshire Police has still got a deficit. We will have the NTFF at a future meeting in November. So we're not blind to the fact that there's still financial hurdles that West Yorkshire Police and all forces need to face. And in fact, I was at a joint meeting between the NPCC and APCC a few months ago, where it was really clear that the growth in things like technology is being funded through borrowing, and as a result of that, actually we're replacing police staff, PCSOs, police staff, with debt, because we've got a huge debt burden on policing nationally. About 71% of our forces have currently got debt that's been funding capital, that's been funding technology, and that is the reality in the NTFFs of all our forces. Over the next 3 years, there's going to be a £500 million deficit. That's what the NPCC have said, £500 million deficit across all forces. And this information has been given to the Home Office. We've personally spoken to the Home Secretary, the Policing Minister, and of course the Chancellor about these challenges. But today, this year, the things that I've said will happen will happen. The benefits of the growth that we've received will happen. The 2.3% is clearly not what we wanted, but things can always be worse. And they have been worse over the last 14 years, of course, as many people in this room will know, when the massive dramatic cuts came to West Yorkshire Police, that we're still now having to deal with. And the reason we've got the deficits going forward, the reason why we've got a lot of debt, is because of underfunding over a long period of time. So I don't want to get political. What I want to do is celebrate the fact that we've got some more officers here in West Yorkshire. The public are going to see that high visibility. The public are going to get what they ask for. In the medium to long term, it is up to the politicians, Tracy and I, to speak to those in positions of power to make the right choices. And we believe that with the right level of growth in the country, that some choices will be made that will benefit policing. And we will be at the front of that queue asking for our share for West Yorkshire.
Is that okay, Councillor Carter? You're not about politics and
Sorry?
Yes, but, you know...
Sorry?
Yeah.
No,
that was
people of West Yorkshire who were the judges.
Yes, but the one you just read out to Tracy and said the people in West Yorkshire fully aware of that already. So, Councillor Kingston, have you still got another question?
Thank you very much. So I hope you're aware that a young man died in Halifax last week following a car crash. 2 cars crashed. And it is my understanding from what local people have told me that the car that caused the accident, that the 2 young women in that car were under the influence of nitrous oxide. I don't know whether or not that's the case. That's what I've been told. I see that you've used your Safer Community Fund to fund some education in Bradford area about the dangers of nitrous oxide. I wondered, have you seen any behavioural change following that education, and can we have this in Condedale?
Very good. I've actually visited the project that we funded in Bradford. We didn't evaluate it because the Mayor Safe Communities Fund is small pots of money given to grassroots organisations, and the whole underpinning ethos of it is that it's grassroots funding without too much expectation around the reporting, because otherwise people won't apply, and we know that they need that money more than anybody else. So I'm hoping it's had a positive impact on those couple of hundred children who benefited, but we haven't got an academic evaluation, and we never will have. But we, as you know, I chair the Combating Drugs Partnership across the whole of West Yorkshire. Nitrous oxide is something that we've discussed across the partnership alongside our health partners and directors of public health. We actually had a focus session a couple of meetings ago where we focused on the work that each partner was doing, because it's a health issue as well as a local authority issue. But the police are at the end, when we're penalising people for misuse of NOx, or working with trading standards to go to those shops who are illegally selling nitrous oxide, of course. So there's a whole partnership piece to this, which West Yorkshire Police are part of, but they're not leading because it is more health and local authority and trading standards than anything else. We would be delighted to see a charity or grassroots group in Calderdale bidding through the Mayor Safe Communities Fund for work such as this. Clearly, Tracy and I don't choose who gets this money. We've got a people panel, the CSPs are represented on the panel, members of the public are trained up, and they will choose the best projects to get the money. But it's just gone live, the latest round, £350,000 has just gone live, so there is an opportunity for Calderdale and any other locality to bid for monies to do this prevention work, so we welcome that.
I know some local organisations that might not be interested, and I'll talk to them about applying. Thank you.
Thank you. Is it for
Thank you, Chair. Just on the same topic, it's become apparent to me in my workings as a councillor that there's a specific behaviour with nitrous oxide of taking nitrous oxide either while driving or immediately before driving. Now, nitrous oxide has been criminalised now and it's a different world than it was 2 years ago. In the past, I can remember if you were drinking in a car, even if it was stationary, you would be prosecuted for drink driving. Is that something that you would think might be looked at with nitrous oxide, considering the amount of, not necessarily just crashes that have involved deaths, but also there have been numerous crashes in my ward alone where there's been nitrous oxide involved. Does the question make sense? Do you want to rephrase that?
Yeah, no, road police materials likes the fact, and we'll use every legislative opportunity to prevent people driving with it. So it's still some stated cases yet to be brought through in terms of technicalities. But there's a societal issue that all of us have got to deal with. We used to see the small canisters, now we see the massive canisters thrown out of cars. So there's a societal issue there. Again, we've got Operation SNAP, which is around dangerous use of the roads through motor vehicles. I'd encourage people to use Operation SNAP for the reporting of nitrous oxide as well, if those are used through. Because whilst we might not be able to deal with it in the same way, it's great intelligence and great opportunities. But all of us have got a responsibility for that prevention, but it's primarily a health-based issue. But I can assure you that the roads police and specialists are all over it in terms of preventing death and harm on the roads and the use of nitrous oxide whilst driving.
And 60%. Yeah, I was just going to say 68% of all submissions to SNAP have resulted in further action being taken, which is really high. So thanks to the citizens of West Yorkshire sharing what they're witnessing, you know, we're taking dangerous drivers off the road.
Thanks, Chair. Mine is on, well, this started with at the beginning about the neighbourhood policing guarantee. Is it possible for us to see what that is going to look like with the structure of how that's going to be? I mean, many years ago when I was here before, neighbourhood policing was one PCSO and one PC per ward. Now, I don't know whether that is still applicable or not. John shaking his head, so apparently that's a no. So in that case, could we possibly see what the structure is going to be when that document is available, please? And that would help us, because there's no point me saying to somebody in the local, oh, well, it's one police officer and one PC, and actually it isn't, because that would be the wrong thing to do. So it would be useful if we could have that document. Thank you.
Can I just come in there? So there's a bit of a misconception about this. So the neighbourhood policing guarantee is something that has been brought in. It's a long-term piece of work from the government. The summer surge that they're talking about is one pillar of the neighbourhood policing guarantee. So this work that we're talking about over the summer, that is being looked at and evaluated, as Alison has said. The neighbourhood policing guarantee work is a longer term piece of work. So as we get updates on it, we will bring it to panel.
Yeah, but we can give you the numbers.
So,
yeah.
We'll give you the general numbers for deployable reasons, as we've discussed before. We'll be very careful as to how we do it. But in terms of the people and the numbers and the names and the officers who are in your areas, we can easily give you that. For total transparency, because we've reported this before at this panel in budget meetings, you do need to understand that there's an increase of 100 police officers, but as the MTFF has been describing, if the financial situation remains as it is, we will be reducing PCSO numbers. And so, you know, there will be an increase in neighbourhoods, but I don't, you know, it's a good thing, and it's the dynamics of it. But as we reported that panel, that's how the finances are playing out, because of that structural deficit that Alison's mentioned.
It's a real problem for me, so I'd rather wait when I get something from you before I ask any more comments, because I have a great problem with parts of Calderdale, in fact the valley side of Calderdale, with the allocation of officers and PCSOs. So before I ask for any further detail or info or say anything, I'll wait till you get
We can save that debate. There's still a universal service across all of West Yorkshire, but there's then a deployment under what we describe as threat, harm and risk, which put most people to where the most harm is happening. But there's always a universal service for everybody, but it's perhaps not as you last recall.
Definitely not. Thank you. I'll wait with bated breath. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you everyone for your contribution. Thanks, Tracy, for your report. Thank you. We move on to item 12, action. Agreed action plan. So, this one, want to go through? Does everyone agree?
Yeah.
Can I ask a question?
Right, just 1 minute. Sorry, Councillor Cummins.
Yeah, thank you. I've looked at the forward plan and we've talked today about the stayed but pilot, which is under theme 4. I don't see theme 4 any reporting back on here, and I really would like to know the outcome of that, or how that pilot's going at some later stage.
It's only just started.
If that may be added.
Councillor.
Thanks, Chair. It's on the first item, preset commitment 1. That was agreed in February. Can you please tell me when that update is going to come in? Obviously, I understand it's only in June and we went by the 14th. With regards to retain and increase the number of PCSOs where funding allows, because I noticed from the website that there is currently no recruitment for PCSOs. So can you please update that?
November is part of the preset.
So it'll be November when
MTF, but it's the start of the preset conversations, isn't it? So MTFF, November is the start of those conversations. You'll get an update then.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, is everyone else?
Yeah, I'd just like to say thank you for the feedback on the training completion rate. I actually went back through the papers for last year to figure out where it came from.
Yes.
I couldn't actually make sense of where we actually got the request from you. It's probably our fault for not being clear, or more clear about what we actually wanted. So I think that answer's fine. I think it enables us to close it down as an action.
Right.
And I think we'll make sure in future we're very
A
specific
bit more,
about
yeah.
what
Yeah, that's why it's been a
actually
long-term thing, because we were backwards and forwards about what was it that was wanted. So, but, yeah, thank you.
Okay, so okay for everyone. Okay, 13, forward action plan. This is our dates that's set for the future meetings and going forward. If there's any changes, we'll let you know.
Sorry, Chair, we just for completeness, we discussed in the private section we're going to add in for November that update on the appraisal progress, the new appraisal plan.
Yes.
Yeah. Just as a heads up, so for next meeting it should come on to forward.
Yeah.
We agreed 6 months, but if you feel that's appropriate, or December, whichever is more appropriate.
Yeah, so it was Catherine Hankinson agreed that we'd do an
agreed plan.
Yeah, on the, you know, the new appraisal process and the PDR.
Would you rather do it in December? Would that,
Because we've got a new one in, do you remember? Yeah,
Probably,
you shouldn't let them go.
December might work better.
December might work better, yeah, because we usually give over the November meeting for the MTFF.
Okay.
So if we say December, is that all right with you, Fiona?
That's fine.
Yeah. Chair? Yeah.
That's fine. Item 14, Jo, can I hand that over to you?
Thanks, Chair. There have been no new complaints recorded against the Mayor when acting in relation to a police and crime function since the last meeting.
Marvellous.
Keep doing what you did now. Lovely, thank you. So we are down to more other business. Are there any other business anyone would like to add?
Thank you, Chair. I'd just like to raise something that was brought to me, and you just mentioned that the Combined Authority, you met with domestic abuse partners who look after people and support people through that issue. They may have raised this with you, but being that this is crime and police, there's a massive issue for women whose only right to be residing in the country is linked to their marriage, and if that breaks down due to domestic abuse, it's a relatively simple way to initiate a 3 months grace to stay whilst legal proceedings are brought together, and the legal proceedings to give them the right to remain beyond the relationship. But currently I believe only one solicitor, and I'm not sure if this is in West Yorkshire or the whole of Yorkshire, is taking on these cases, which are clearly not high-paying cases. And it really needs to be something that we could maybe address somewhere, and I don't know if there's any way you can advocate for some way forward in that, because they have to study law, then immigration, then this very specific area, and if people could focus just on that part of law, or there was some way that paralegals or whatever they're called could bring this in, they could represent these women, because women are in a very vulnerable position. They don't have a support network and they don't have money, and they're only bound to the country by their marriage. They're already in a vulnerable position if somebody starts being domestically abusive towards them, and this limit on where they can access that legal support is something maybe you could advocate for or help with that in any way.
The Deputy Mayor and I visited a refuge last year, I think it was, but where it was lots of women exactly in that situation. Some of the most vulnerable women in our society. But let me have a look at, particularly, you have a case, do you, that's come to
I've been talking to an organisation in Kirklees that's had cases like this, and they're struggling to find somebody to represent these women because of the complex law needs and because of the limited sort of payment of it, and that nobody's taking them anymore, just one solicitor, I believe.
Okay, thanks. Just to have a look at it. Obviously, that is a national issue, isn't it? And it's about what's part of the training programme and so on. But if we can help, of course we will.
So will you have a look and communicate that?
Yeah, we'll take it out of the panel.
Okay, thank you. So that just leaves us to item 16, date and time of next meeting. It will be on the 11th of July, 10 o'clock. But not forgetting, pre-meeting starts at 9 o'clock. Also, on Friday, the 27th of June, a couple of weeks' time, there will be the private session for members, development training session. Did you say it will be in line? Yeah, this will be in line, just for members only. So thank you all for coming, and this was very fruitful meeting. Thank you. Thanks for your attention.